Hello everyone, this is Richard Eaton, your instructor for CTEC 134 Database Administration. This video is a continuation of the video that I entitled Core Relational Database Concepts and Terms. In this video, I'm actually going to use SQL Server Management Studio, and we're going to examine the TAL distributors database. This particular database is used throughout several chapters, if not most all the chapters in the Guide to SQL. And it's a perfect example of how to introduce and teach relational database concepts. So in the last video, we talked about entities being a person, place, or thing, that we will create tables to represent each entity. We talked about each table will have columns or attributes describing that table. And so I'm going to open up a couple of our first two tables in the TAL Administrators database to demonstrate those terms and concepts. So I already have SQL Server running on my computer, SQL Server Management Studio, and I'm going to click the databases to expand it. And you see here TAL distributors _RIC. The week 1 assignment asked you to create that database, and we'll keep coming back to it over and over and over again. So I'm going to expand the TAL distributors _RIC database. And I'm going to be interested here in looking at the tables. I'm going to expand tables, and we will see 5 tables: the customer table, the item table, order line, orders, and reps. I'm interested for this video in looking at the rep table and the customers table to see how that relationship works. So what I'm going to do first is to open the rep table, like expanding it, excuse me, not by expanding it, I don't need to do that, by right-clicking on it and selecting Edit Top 200 Rows. When I do that, that gives me a nice representation of the structure of the table and its contents. And here it is. Right now, it's a tab that is kind of locked into this particular window. This is the new query window that we're looking at here. And this is a tab that stuck to that window right now. And we're going to unstick it here in a minute. Now that I've opened that, I'm going to open the customer table by right-clicking on customer and saying Edit Top 200 Rows. Now I have 2 tabs open. This tab for the rep table and this tab for the customer table. I would like to be able to see these 2 tables at the same time. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag them by holding the left mouse button down. I'm going to drag them down until the window is actually floating. And so now I can move this window anywhere I want, and I can resize it as I see fit. And I can do likewise with the rep table. So I'm going to click on the rep table. Excuse me, I'm not going to click on it. I'm going to click the left mouse button on that tab and drag it down. And now it's a floating window. And I'm going to resize it. Now, to to be able to see both these windows, I am going to just actually minimize SQL Server. I'll minimize this window, and I'll position these two windows so I can see them, see the contents of both of them. Okay. Let's look first at the customer table. The customer table has several attributes in it, or we're going to call these attributes columns or fields. For example, customer name, street, city, state, zip, balance, credit limit. We'll learn here in the next few weeks about how important defining the proper data types for each of these attributes are, but for right now, we don't have to pay too much attention to that. I do want to point out, though, that in the customer number, if we look at these customer numbers, you notice they're all unique. None of them are duplicated, which makes sense. Because one of these numbers has to represent a given customer, one and only one given customer at a time. Over here, though, we see a rep num field, and we see the rep num field, in this case 15, we see it here and here and here and here. It turns out this rep num field relates to the rep num field in the rep table. In the rep table, the rep num field is considered a primary key. It's unique and is not duplicated. Okay, there are no duplicates here. Just like in the customer table, the customer num field is unique and not duplicated. In the customer num table, this particular column is a primary key. In the rep table, the rep num field is a primary key. Back to the customer table, the rep num field here is not considered a primary key, it's considered a foreign key, but it matches values up here in the rep table. So what we have here is what's called a one-to-many relationship. One record, this being a record right here, one record relates to 0 or more records in the customer table. And in this case, Raphael Campos record, rep num 15, is here 4 times. So there are 4 records down here that relate to 1 record up here. And then if we look at Megan Grady, she's rep num 30, we can see here, we can see her here in the customer table 1, 2, 3, also 4 times. So there's a one-to-many relationship between this table and this table. In this table, the rep num field, in the rep table, the rep num field is a primary key and it must be unique. And in the customer table, the customer num field is a primary key and it must be unique. The rep num field is called a foreign key and it must match a rep num field in this table. So that's all I want to show you right now for the TAL database, and I will continue this in another part of this introduction to core concepts. So for now, I'm going to close that. I'm going to close that, and I will go ahead and sign off.